Hi there, I'm Vicki Parfano for Aussie Stampers. Today I have a tutorial for you, ball stylus painting on photo paper using alcohol inks. Now if you'd like to see lots more mixed media projects and card making projects, then begin now by subscribing and clicking on that bell so you don't miss anything. I'm using some BG15, Y13, V09, R27 and B26 inks, which are the Copic various ink refills. I have a ball stylus which I use with my scoring plate, and I have some photo paper, Epsom photo paper that I just got from the supermarket. I'm using the non-glossy side. I have some various ink colourless blender as well, and I'm using a very inexpensive little palette that I got from the dollar shop for a couple of dollars, and the same with this little spray bottle that I got from the dollar shop as well. I'm putting colourless blender in there, and make sure you mark it so that you don't mistake it for water. Now I have a paper towel and I'm rubbing off that colourless blender because if you let that get onto your skin it will sting. Now I have a paintbrush, and this is a paintbrush that will stain. It will stain using the ink, so make sure you don't use one of your best paintbrushes here, and keep this just for painting with the alcohol inks. And I'm just doing some wavy lines and then cleaning off the brush on that baby wipe. I haven't put a lot of ink into these little ink wells because I don't want to waste any, but it dries up fairly quickly, and I will add some more drops of ink about halfway through. Excuse me. Now that yellow has become a little bit contaminated, but that's okay, I'll go over that later. So nothing too fancy here, but you'll notice when I spray it with that colourless blender how it reactivates all the ink so that you can continue to work with it. Now I've dipped that ball stylus into a little bit of colourless blender, and now I'm just going to draw random patterns all over the page. Now I did go a little bit too close to this page. You can see there's a blot in the top right hand side of this piece where I put my sprayer a little bit too close. It's just the camera is right up above me, and so I can't get very far away from it without hitting the camera, but I'll fix that later. Now you can see how it's really starting to develop, and I'm just bringing in a bit more blue with the paintbrush, and I've changed that yellow to red because it was really looking quite muddy. And I have some nice yellow in the middle, so that's shining through. So I'm quite pleased with the way this is progressing. It's going to be a very abstract piece. And using the stylus this way is a really good way to get a background that I don't think you could manage to achieve any other way. Now I'm going to start painting with the stylus. So I'm not using colourless blender, I'm just going straight to the ink. And what you'll notice with the stylus painting is the first few strokes have the most ink, and the ink dissipates with more strokes. You can see on the tree here. This is a little tree that I'm drawing, by the way. So I had in mind I wanted a little forest painting, and I wanted it to be very abstract, very magical, very whimsical sort of little picture. So I'm drawing 3 trees here, just being very loose. And I always like to put odd numbers in my little paintings, so I'm going to draw a 5th tree over on the left hand side, maybe make it a smaller tree, I think, just like it's a little sapling growing up. Now I have noticed that some of the trees seem to be floating, they're not connected to the ground, but I'll fix that in a moment. For now I want to do some spots, and you'll see what I mean by the ink dissipates from the stylus. The first spot is large, the second is medium, and the third is small. So you can use this to your advantage when you're doing these little spotty paintings. You can get a variation in the sizes, and the sizes of the dots are really quite precise. So I'm just going to speed up a little to get through the rest of those. And now I'm going to ground those trees that are floating. Just bringing in a little bit more of that darker blue, which is the B26. And I really like how these colours are developing. There are some really interesting techniques with the areas that I sprayed with that colourless blender. There's a lot of bleeding out and softening of the lines. And that area at the top, I'm now going to bring in a bit more blue. You can see how small the amount of ink is that I'm using. I don't want to waste my ink. I'm keeping this palette for use with the same inks over and over again, so I won't try and wash my palette. I'll just reuse it when I'm using these inks. And I've still got plenty of spare little spots for more ink if I choose different colorways next time. And I'm just dabbing that in to sort of clean that up. But I'm still not happy with it. I think I'll just tie that in further down the track. But for now, there are a few little spots that are white that are showing through, so I'm just dotting into those with the stylus, just to clean up those pieces that are still white. Now, when I've finished with this, I'm going to put it into my art journal and make a complete page of it. So I'll show you that further down the track. For now, I just want to get my painting finished. And I'm going to also be bringing in some gold paint as well, which will really give it some nice gloss at the end. So this is gold paint from IKEA, and this comes in a set of 6, I think. It's in the children's section, but I love them because of the tip. It has a tip like Nuvo Drops or Glitter Glue or Kinderglitz or something like that, which allows you to have a really smooth application, and it's not messy, so it cleans up really well. I use this on a lot of my projects now as my gold paint. And you can mix it with a little bit of water if you want to do gold splatters, but I'm just using it directly from the bottle. It's really fun to work with, and if you skip a little bit, you can go back and fill them in. And it's kind of nice that the line is a little bit broken anyway. It looks a little bit more arty that way. So I'm pleased with how this looks. I want to add some more dots to play with the dots that are above those trees. So I'm bringing in a few little dots of gold right through the red section. Now, if you make a mistake like I did just there, don't worry too much about that. I'm going to bring in some Q-tips or some cotton buds, as we call them in Australia, and just clean them up. Because it's very slippery paper, the gold will just wipe off with those and you're not left with any after effects. It cleans up really nicely. It also gives a little bit of texture to the painting as well. Now, I wasn't happy with the blue, even though I had done a little bit of changing to it, and I thought, well, I'm going to experiment with another technique I like to do, which is just little dabs of paint all the way across, just to fill it in, and then I'm going to bring back that cotton bud, or I'm actually going to use a fresh cotton bud, not the one that has the gold paint on it. I'm getting a fresh cotton bud. I'm going to dip it into the colourless blender, and I'm going to swirl it all through that blue section. And what this does, it gives a really cool effect. It gives yet another way to work with the alcohol inks. And you can see how it's picking up that blue and washing the colour out, which is exactly what I wanted, so that you've got a real degree of 3 or 4 different colours of blue going on in that sky section. And I'm just going to clean up some of those lines that I'd skipped a bit with the gold, just filling those in just a little bit. But I really like how this is turning out. It's very whimsical. The colours are really, really vibrant and really pretty. And I already have in mind this sort of way I'm going to put them into my art journal. I want to do a little bit of stamping as well. So it's still wet. I want to leave that to dry now. It will take a few minutes to dry, but alcohol inks generally dry fairly quickly. But I am liking all that first effect that I did with the stylus in the background and then the stylus trees. I think that's working pretty well. So I'm going to put it into this mini art journal now that it's dry. I have a tutorial on how to make this mini art journal, so I'll link that in the description box up in the right hand corner here, and also I'll link it at the end of the video. And I'm just looking through to find a place to put this. I keep a lot of my alcohol ink and watercolor inks on photo paper in here as part of my art journal, so this is going to find a good home with the rest of them. Now I love this purple, so I'm going for a purple ink, and I love the green, which is like a Bermuda Bay colour. So this is the idea. I'm going to lay it in here, and the stamp I'm using is from Darkroom Door. Now I want to put this stamp in my stamp positioner for two reasons. One, I want to get it stamped nicely, but I also want to stamp it twice because I want it to be a really purple colour. So if you were to stamp purple on this dark cardstock, you wouldn't really get much of a purple effect the first time around, and you'll see when I stamp this first off, it doesn't really have much vibrancy to the colour because it's against that very strong background colour. So I'm going to give it 2 lots of ink so that it can add more vibrancy to that colour and really show off the purple. I've stamped it really nicely and I'm really pleased with how it's stamped, and now that extra colour is just going to be ideal. And there's the purple coming out in it, so I'm pleased with that. Now I'm bringing in some Dinah Wakely gel medium in matte. I have a water jar ready to plunge that big brush into. When you're working with matte medium, you have to clean your brushes straight away, so I just keep water there on the desk so that I can put my large brush in there and keep it in good condition. I brought in some scissors too because I'm going to need to slightly trim off the edge of that Bermuda Bay cardstock once I've put it into my art journal. And the best way to adhere things in your art journal is to adhere wet on wet. So I'm going to apply some wet medium, which is the Dinah Wakely gel medium in matte, on the back of that Bermuda Bay piece as well. I'm steering clear of the middle section because that's the spine. I don't really need any glue on the cardstock there. And I'm just positioning that so that it sits right on the spine section. And I'm going to get a paper towel so that I don't smear too much glue anywhere. I have ended up getting a little bit of glue on that being word at the top. Being creative is not a hobby, it's a way of life. I really like that saying. And I'm just going to trim down now. As I said, the cardstock's just a little bit too big, so I'm trimming that. Just with some scissors, it's just a fraction too big. And now I'm just going to lay in my painting. And again, wet on wet with gel medium. So I want a frame top and bottom on this page, so I'm not putting any gel medium at the top or bottom, but I am covering the entire back, which is the shiny side of that photo paper. And just lining it up. And so now I've created not just a little painting, but I've created a way of enjoying it so that I can flick through my art journal and I can see the work there. And I really love how that's turned out. I love the shine of the gold paint. There's quite a little bit of shine left in some of that alcohol ink. You'll find it gets sort of a sticky shine to it. There was a lot of that in the blue section, so I'm glad I went through that and used that cotton bud technique. So there's a close-up. I hope you enjoyed that project today. Remember, I'm running a giveaway all month here on my channel, so you might like to enter that. Instructions will be in the box below, and I'll see you again next time. Here are some more videos that you might like to look at. Bye for now.